Good morning. We're doing now some math that should be real familiar to you. So some of those things at the beginning of the year, classifying those things, and we're going to be doing less and less than that, even though they're still important. This really is important that we're able to solve one-step and two-step equations and get that variable by itself. This is like super important. So if you're struggling with on how to do today's work, start making arrangements to stay after school and get some help, okay? Very important that you show your work, even on some of the easy ones here. Sometimes kids will get to 9th grade and they'll say, hey, you know what? I can do this in my head. I know what number plus 12 is 10. Show your work so that your brain and your hand is getting into this rhythm that you don't even really have to think about it. You look at a problem, you don't even have to study. You say, hey, you know what? I want to get rid of that 12 by subtracting 12 on both sides. We want you to be able to do it very quickly and accurately, but show your work, even on the easy ones here, okay? All right, so here we go. Just like I said, I want the m by itself, and so in algebra, usually they'll ask us to get one letter. We only have one variable here. So we're going to undo this by subtracting 12 from both sides. 12 and a negative 12 cancel out, so we just have this m and a positive and a negative. Now get into this habit too, because a lot of kids are still using calculators. This should be really a mental math problem. I got more negatives than I got positives, so I know my answer has to be a negative, and when the numbers are opposite signs, I subtract the 2, a negative 2. Now if you wanted to go back up there and check, which is kind of weird, but right now with one step it's okay. Negative 2 plus 10 is 10, and so 10 equals 10. So I know negative 2 is the number that has to go in there to make this a true statement. There is only one number that can go in here is what we're really trying to find out here. All right. Even though the g is on the wrong side, I'm not going to panic. I want the g by itself, so I want to just add 9, because the opposite of a minus 9 is a plus 9. So we're going to basically undo PEMDAS. Is what we're basically doing. We're getting rid of adding and subtracting first, and then we're going to get rid of multiplication and division. So we're kind of going PEMDAS backwards here. So I want to add 9 to both sides. I got a g over here. These guys cancel out. And now again, signs are different, so I know I got more positives than negatives, and to find out how many, I'm going to take 9, take away 2, which is 7. Now, some teachers will allow you to leave it this way. Now that you're older, we're just going to put the variable first, because we're always solving for the letter. So, take the time, write it in standard form, we call it. The g comes first, equals 7. Okay. Now, down here, some kids are still struggling with this. Let's make these notes. Anytime you're multiplying or dividing, okay, anytime you're multiplying or dividing, here's the rules. If the signs are alike, like I'm taking a negative divided by a negative, or a negative times a negative, a positive times a positive, these guys are always going to be positive answers. Okay? Anytime I'm multiplying or dividing and my signs are opposites of each other, and again, this is just multiplication and division, anytime they're opposite of each other, negative divided by a positive, positive divided by a negative, these guys are always going to equal a negative. This is a rule that by now you should memorize, okay? So I'm going to put a little arrow right here. These are my rules. So when I come over here and I'm asked to solve this problem here, I see right now it's negative 7. There's no plus or minuses. Let's back up. There's no pluses or minuses, so I'm going backwards. Multiplication and division. I'm going to undo multiplication and division. And when I see a number touching a letter, that means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is divide. I'm going to divide by that negative to save me one whole step, because negative 7 divided by negative 7 is a positive 1. Negative divided by negative is positive. And so we just put a y down here. There's really one y. We got 1 right there. Now, the rule says whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other one. So over here is that rule that you must memorize. I got a negative divided by a negative, so I know my answer's got to be a positive. Now, I don't know how many 7s are in 91, So I'm just going to go ahead and use my calculator here and divide it. You should too. I'm getting 13. Okay. Over here, I have this is a divided by 9. So now the opposite of dividing by is multiplying. So here's what we do is we put a 9 out here in parentheses. We don't use that x anymore for times. We don't use the dot anymore for times. These guys are gone. We use parentheses now to show multiplication. So on this side, I want to show multiplication with parentheses. Over here, 9 divided by 9 is 1. I got my A. 1A is what I was aiming for. Now, back to our rules over here. I have opposite signs. I have a negative and a positive. I know on this one my answer has to be a negative. And if you know your multiplication facts, 9 times 4 is 36. So, work on that. It's not too late, number one, to learn your multiplication facts. But these rules over here, we should know really, really well now. Okay, again, it's only on multiplication and division. Signs are the same, it's always going to be positive. Signs are opposites, it's always going to be a negative. Work on memorizing that rule, okay? All right, here we go, fractions. Now, let's talk about this guy, and then we'll take a little note here. Now, this guy says 2/3 times x equals 10. Now, truly, the opposite would be divide by. The opposite of multiplication is divide by. So just on this one, let's do this. Divided by, that's my division symbol now. Again, we don't use this guy, not anymore. We use a fraction bar to show division. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other one. Now, a lot of times this looks really weird, and kids kind of panic when I got a fraction on top of a fraction with all these division signs. Okay? And we're going to try to make it simpler in a second here. But right now, here's what your calculator is doing. If you put 10 divided by 2/3, here's what your math problem says. 10 divided by 2/3. And when you were in 6th grade, 5th grade, your teacher taught you, hey, when you do division with fractions, the first number always stays the same. You take the reciprocal of the second one and change the sign to times. And then we would have 30 over 2, which equals 15. That's what your calculator's doing right there when you put in 10 divided by 2/3. All right? So over here, 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1x equals 10 divided by 2/3 on your calculator. Do that real quick. You better be getting 15. Okay. Yep. Okay. So, you know it works, but now, we're older here, so here's what we want to do. I want to rewrite this math problem, because this is what we want to do from now on. And start practicing it right now. Now, because your calculator is taking reciprocal, that's what we call it, we're going to do that right now. So instead of dividing by 2/3, we're going to flip that guy, it's called reciprocal. And I want to multiply it by 3 over 2. The 3 goes on the top, 2 goes on the bottom. We call that a reciprocal. And this speeds up things, and it looks a little bit less threatening. 6/6 is the same as 1 whole, so we say these guys cancel out. And 10 times 3 is 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So sometimes you won't even need your calculator. You can do mental math. Okay? So over here, we want to start practicing multiplying by reciprocal. Okay? This is what we want to practice now. Okay? So here, go over here and try this one real quick. I'm hoping that you multiplied by 9/4. Multiply by 9/4. That guy goes away. Now you can grab your calculator and take -8 times 9/4. I know it's got to be a negative, because negative times positive is negative. And let's see what that is. Are you getting -18? We'll check on the next page here. Okay, but I'm thinking it's -18. All right, so here's another one. But now we have a negative sign here. These guys were both positives that we were multiplying by, you know, the reciprocals of 3 halves and 9/4. But now we got this negative, so we're going to save ourselves a step here as well. We're still going to multiply by its reciprocal, which is 5 6, but I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 5 6 because I want that negative sign to become positive, and I know negative times negative is a positive, so this side just becomes a positive k. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other one. So I'm going to show my work. 12 times negative 5 6. And do that on the calculator if you want to. But I know 12 times negative 5, first of all, I know it's going to be a negative because 12 positive times negative is a negative. And then I can do this. 12 times 5 is 60, and 60 divided by 6 is a negative 10. So I really didn't need my calculator there because I know my multiplication facts. Okay? All right. Try this one real quick, and then we'll roll to the next page. So pause your video, try this one, and then let's see how you do. And we'll check that number 6 up there. Okay, so let's see how you did here. Yep, we got negative 18. Now look, when I showed my work here, I did it the old way from 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade, where I divided both sides by the fraction 4/9. But this is what we're aiming for over here. Okay, whoops, I see I forgot the negative sign right there, because the negative times positive is a negative when I did it over here. Alright, so now, again, this is the junior high way. We want to start doing it this way, so I hope you flipped it, reciprocal, and multiplied both sides by a negative to make this m a positive, and we got 18. Okay, so this is what we want to aim for now. Alright, let's go do a couple more here. Now we have what we call two-step equations. Again, I want to think about PEMDAS. Pretty soon you won't have to write this or even think about it if you do enough practice. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I'm going to get rid of any adding and subtracting first, and then I'm going to get rid of any multiplication and division. Alright, so here's how we work. I look at this math problem, there's my x, I don't care what side he's on the left side, so that's nice. I'm going to get rid of my pluses and minuses first. I'm going to undo that 8 by subtracting 8. Again, the rule in math is whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other one. Okay? Those guys go away. Pretty soon, we won't even cross those guys off. We're just going to know they go away and bring down our 6x. 50 take away 8. I know is 42. Okay, and now I got rid of all my pluses and minuses, and I see a multiplication here, so I'm on this step now. I see right here multiplication, 6 times x, and so undo times, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. That's how I show division. I got my x by itself, and I know 42 divided by 6 is 7. Okay. Let's go do 11, and then you can pause your video and do these two. Okay, and you have examples over here. So these two guys are very similar. These two guys are very similar. So we're going to do this one real quick, and then you can try these two. Now I'm studying my problem. There's my k. I want the k by itself. Now, I don't care that the k is on the right side. Sometimes kids will add 4k to both sides because they really like the k on the left-hand side. But we're older now, so we should just say, hey, you know what? I don't care if the k is on that side. I'm going to get rid of this 9 by subtracting 9 from both sides. 9's go away. I still have a minus 4k on the right. And 13 take away 9. Now I know I have more positives than I do negatives, so I know my answer's got to be a positive. And 13 take away 9 is 4. Next step. Let's get rid of that multiplication right there by dividing both sides by a negative 4. Okay. Now I'm going to have a k, and 4 divided by negative 4 equals negative 1. But I'm not going to leave my answer that way. I'm going to flip it and just say k equals negative 1. Okay. Alright, pause your video. Try these two. If you get stuck, just look over here to the left. Okay, so pause your video, do those two, and then let's see how you did. Okay, let's see how you did. You really, whoa, did I do it right? Yeah, there they are. All right, added 5 to both sides, got 2 in. See how I'm not even crossing these guys off anymore? I could have. But I got 2 ends on the left, 16 on the right, then I divided by 2, got 8. Down here, first step was get rid of that 7 to undo a positive, even though there's no plus sign. I see it's a positive 7. If it was a negative, they'd have a negative sign there, so we assume it's positive. Is subtract 7 from both sides. I got a negative 3y equals 27. If you're going to do your calculator, and I did 34 take away 7. I left that 27 in my calculator because I know here in a second I want to divide by a negative 3. So don't keep clearing out your calculator every time. So then I divided by a negative 3 and I got a negative 9. Alright? Good for you if you got both of them. Alright? Here we go on number 13. Again, I'm doing PEMDAS backwards, so I see a minus 7 right there. So I want to add 7 to both sides. Math happens, so I like to draw a line like this versus everything just kind of hanging out there in space. Somebody that's looking at my work will say, hey, you know what? Look, they added 7 to both sides, and they still have an x over 2 on this side. On this side, I got 9 plus 7, which is 16. And now I see a division problem. That says x divided by 2. Well, instead of dividing by 2, we're going to undo it by multiplying both sides by 2. 2 over 2 becomes just 1x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. We just don't write the 1 in front of it. That's what our goal was. 16 times 2 is 32. Let's go do 15 down below here. And then you can do those 2 over there. Undo 22. Keep your work nice and neat. Start writing smaller. You got 28 take away 22. I don't care. I'm going to use my calculator. 28 take away 22 is 6. I'm going to leave that 6 in my calculator because I know I'm going to do some more math here in a second. I'm going to put 3 over 5 x's. And now, this is back to that reciprocal one. Instead of dividing by 3/5, which technically we should be doing, we're going to multiply it by 5/3. Take the reciprocal. What I do to one side, I do to the other one. Now again, this is kind of a little bit uncomfortable for kids. So push yourself, and instead of dividing by 3/5 on both sides, let's practice this, because when we get bigger problems, this is a faster way to get your answer. This guy again becomes 15/15. 15 over 15 becomes 1x. That was our goal. But now, because that 6 is in my calculator, I'm just going to hit times 5/3. Alright? So, if I didn't want to use my calculator, I can go back to elementary level and say, hey, you know what? 6 times 5 is 30. 30 divided by 3 is 10. And I didn't even need my calculator. Okay? Alright. Try these 2 real quick. And then pause your video and let's see how you did. Just 2 steps to get that letter by itself. Pause your video. Alright, let's see how you did. Hopefully I did it right. Sometimes I make a mistake. I want to check here. 11 I want to subtract 8 from both sides. That's 3. I got c over negative 5 here. And over here I got negative 15. I'm sorry, 3. Now to get rid of that negative 5, I'm going to multiply both sides, because right now it says c divided by negative 5. So multiply both sides by negative 5. Those guys go away. And now negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Back to that rule, negative times positive. Work on that is a negative. But I don't want that what negative 15 equals. I want to know what c equals. So I want to flip it. Put it in standard form. Okay? Alright, down here, let's see, I hope you subtracted 1 from both sides. Some kids would add 7, then you have everything over here and nothing over here, and you're just kind of working yourself to death. So study the problem. There's pluses and minuses, there's my variable, so I'm going to get rid of this guy by subtracting 1. I got some negatives and I got some more negatives. Now I have even more negatives. So signs are the same, keep the sign, add them. That's the rule that you should have learned. Alright? I hope you are using Alright, so now here's that negative thing. I want to multiply by its reciprocal, which is 3 over 1. And I want to get rid of that negative, so I want to multiply both sides by a negative 3 over 1. Because on this side, the left side, negative times negative is positive. That's what I needed, a positive m. And over here I got negative times negative, which is a positive. And 8 times 3 is 24. Again, I didn't really need my calculator if I know my multiplication facts. Alright. Work on those. It's never too late to learn your multiplication facts. Alright, let's see what's happening on this one here. Let's go back up here. Yeah, 16, 17, 18. I'm not sure why there's not 4 problems on the page. It's alright. Let's go and see what's going on here. There's my p. There are some pluses and minuses here, so I want to add 10 to both sides. I got 7 fourths p equals negative and a positive. So I want to look and see which one I got more of. I got more negatives than positives, so I know my answer is going to be a negative. And now I want to subtract the 2. That way I don't need my calculator. Okay. Alright, now let's go on this guy. Instead of dividing by 7 fourths, let's multiply by its reciprocal, 4 sevenths. Now, negative times positive, I know it has to be a negative something. And go ahead and use your calculator. 28 times 4 sevenths. Practice this. I see last week some kids that know that I'm just going to write this. And so they're just kind of sitting there, just waiting. And those are the kids that struggle as we get onto tests and they say, I'm not done, because they're not practicing right now. Quickly putting in negative 28 times 4 sevenths. Okay? I'm hoping that you did and you got negative 16. Well, that's 28 28ths, which is 1 p over here. Alright? Try this guy. You're going to get rid of that 9 first. Okay? He's on the wrong side. X is on the wrong side, so to speak, too, but I'm not going to worry about it. Let's get rid of that 9 first. Alright, pause your video and let's see how you did. Okay. It looks like I don't have an 18, so I better go up and do that one. Oh no, there it is. That's it. Sorry. So there's where I subtracted 9 from both sides. That was 6. I want to multiply by a negative 2 over 1. Take the reciprocal. Make sure you bring the sign with it. Negative. Negative times negative is a positive. 1x. There it is. Negative 2 times 6. Negative times positive is negative 12. Flip it. Okay. And write your final answer. Sometimes as we're getting older, I know I'm on my last step here. And so what I'll do is I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm on my last step. I want the x on the left. So I know negative times negative, that's going to be 1x. And then when I do this side over here, negative 2 times 12, I'll just put the negative 12 over here. And I'll skip this step. And I'll just go directly to this one if I know I'm on the last step. Okay? But that takes some practice. Practice and you'll get it right. Alright, we're going to do these triads together here because now we're getting a little bit more complex. Now, I want to say watch out. Be careful. Because this is where a lot of kids will kind of mess up a little bit as well. We want to be careful here because these guys, I have fractions here. And they're a little bit different in that we're going to do this multiplication division first, and then we're going to do the addition subtraction. Okay? The way I look at it is if I look at a math problem, I see something in the denominator. My first step is I got to get that out of the denominator first. Okay? So, right now that says this whole thing divided by 8. And I know the opposite of dividing by is multiplying. We can squeeze that 8 up there. I don't want to have to rewrite this whole math problem here. Okay? So, I'm going to just squeeze it in there. 8 divided by 8, these guys cancel out that I just have an x plus 11 here. Back to that, negative times positive is a negative, and 8 times 3 is 24. Now, this looks like an easy problem, because there's my x. I need to get rid of the 11. These guys cancel out. That's what I wanted. I got some negatives and I got some more negatives, and now I have a whole bunch of negatives, and I know that's going to be a negative 35. Okay? Let's go try this one over here, because I don't have a you try it on my master over here. So, let's get rid of that negative 2 in the denominator. Who cares it's negative? Let's multiply by a negative 2 on both sides. Squeeze that guy up there, showing your work, because it's just going to cancel out. So now I got an n minus 5 equals negative times negative is a positive, and 7 times 2 is 14. Now we're like back to PEMDAS backwards. I'm going to get rid of that 5 by adding 5 to both sides. And I know 14 plus 5 is 19. Okay? Down here, who cares? The a's on the wrong side. I see something in the denominator. So I want to multiply both sides by a negative 6. There's my work. This side they go away. Negative 6 times 1 is a minus 6 over there on the left. I got an a minus 13. Let's get rid of that 13. Now this is what I'm talking about. I'm on my last step. I want the a, so I'm just going to put that a over here, because now I got them by itself, and I don't want to have to keep rewriting it. Here I got negative 6 plus 13. I got more positives than I got negatives, and I know 13 take away 6 is a positive 7. If we can get away from using that calculator for little simple math problems like this, that's what we want. If your little head's saying, I'm not sure, well then use the calculator, because we want it to be accurate. Okay? Alright, let's go do this guy. W's on the wrong side, but I'm not caring about that now. I'm older. I can say, you know what, I'll just take care of that at the end. It says divide by 9, so I want to multiply both sides by 9. 9 times 4 is 36. These guys, the 9's cancel out, and I just got a W plus 8. Next and last step is let's subtract 8 from both sides. And there it is. I know 36, let's see, I got more positives than negatives, so I know it's going to be a positive. 6, 7, 8, that's going to be 28. Just used my fingers right there. I took 6, 7, 8, and I still had 8 on my finger there. Okay? It's alright. I still use it. Now, oh, I should have flipped that guy, but that's alright. I was busy chit-chatting. Alright, so there we go. W equals 28. Now what that really means is I could put that 28 right there in that problem. And if I did 28 plus 8, that's going to be 36. And if I take 36 and divide it by 9, that's going to be 4. So if you want to check your work, that would be a good skill to do. Okay? Alright, but usually they're pretty one-step, two-step problems. You're pretty good at getting the answer. Alright, with that, you now have some practice ones. Oh, this one's the puzzle one. So here's what we're going to do with this one. So you're going to do the math in this math problem right here. So we're going to minus 10, and I got 4x equals, I got some negatives and negatives, and I got a negative 36. And then I went to divide by 4. Negative 36 divided by 4, and you're going to get your answer here. And I got negative 9. Hey, what happened here? Subtract 10, that's minus 36. Negative 36 divided by 4, 9 times 4 is 36. Do we have, oh, I see. Here's negative 9 right here. So what they said is use your solutions to navigate through this puzzle. So we're going to go down this way. Here's our next problem right here. Okay, so we're going to look for the answer, and we're going to go that path right there. So I'm hoping that you subtract 13 minus 13, do your math, take the reciprocal. Alright, so you're going to work your way through this puzzle by just following the path of the answers. Okay, there's a very big important direction. Show all steps. Because you can't put x's in your calculator anymore. You can't just say 1/2 x plus 13 equals 9 and then hit enter. Not going to work no more, okay? Alright, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully you'll do good on this practice sheet. Alright?